Hey troops, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. I'm a former Royal Marines Commando from the United Kingdom, and today we're going to be doing an update on Ukraine. Haven't done one of these in a while. I'm going to go for a map study and see what's changed on the map. We're using deep state maps for reference, troops. So let's just get into it. I haven't looked at this map literally in a few weeks, so we're going to go and see what the crack is. Here we are, troops. So second, I'm on Bakhmut because that's what I've just zoomed into, but the grand scheme of things doesn't look too different from when I last checked. But if we check on these updates, it says progress of Muscovites in private sector Bakhmut and south of the city. So it's primarily Bakhmut, which seems to be where all the news and busyness is. So that's the second. Let's rewind about a week or so. Okay, so there's quite a lot of progress since about the 15th of last month, troops, as you can see right there. We've zoomed into and rewinded to the 15th of January. We can see that Bakhmut itself wasn't, there was the eastern side of Bakhmut was covered by the Russians, but as we fast forward, we can see that they're making slight gains in and around the region, but more importantly, to the north and south of Bakhmut. It seems to me as if Russia is trying to encircle Bakhmut, but they're playing the long game. They're trying to surround the city strategically by taking a lot of the land south and northward of Bakhmut without actually having to, encroach too close onto the city itself. Hopefully this map annotates it. As you can see, we've seen a little bit more progress there on the south region. And as we're encroaching closer to the end of the month, we can see that they're doing the same on the north, all the way up to the current state of affairs. We see this massive dogleg round. It looks as if, guys, and let me get this, let me get my pen here, and we'll get an arrow, and we're going to change the color to red, simply because that is the enemy color. They've pushed southwards, as we mentioned before. Our last update, I believe, we were talking about this settlement here, Klishkivka, that seems to be well and truly under Russian occupation now. They're pushing into this open field here. There's loads of sporadic open land, a little bit of cover there with a wood block. It seems a little bit denser than the open fields they're in. Easier to defend from in terms of Russia being able to defend and then push on forward. And what looks... And you don't need to be a brain box or a war strategy or strategist to guess what's going to happen here. This town is next, in my opinion. Ivanisk. That is probably next on the agenda for Russia. To be able to take and keep this area means effectively that Russia has pretty much surrounded Bakhmut in 3 different directions. Because if they take Ivanisk, effectively they control this area as well. All of this area is theirs, meaning which they can push on and attack Bakhmut from at least 2 sides, the east and the south, and heavily dominant from the south as well, being able to push on through into Bakhmut from these directions here. Okay, now Bakhmut is a massive area, troops. It's not something that's going to be easy. This map, the way I've annotated it, it'll make it look as if it's easier, but there'll be a lot of deaths nonetheless if you want to push into Bakhmut, and it's going to be pretty tough for both sides, guys. The only thing that I can think of that's going to make Ivanisk hard for Russia to be able to push for is the fact that Ukraine obviously has this area here to be able to defend, so they can defend from the west, from these little settlements there. And it depends on how much they want to defend these areas from. So they've still got control of that area. They can easily cut off supply routes via this road here into Ivinsk. So it's going to be pretty tough for Russia to hold that. Although they can resupply from this area here to there. So there's going to be a lot more fighting going on in this region, that's for sure, guys. And it hasn't let up yet. But I want to get into the Institute Study of War to see what they have to say. So let's talk about the main effort for Russia, guys, so we can get a better picture of how Ukrainian soldiers are faring on the ground. It says Russian forces continued ground attacks around Bakhmut. On February 1st, Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian troops repelled Russian attacks on Bakhmut itself, northeast of Bakhmut, near the Spirin, 25 kilometers northeast. So within these areas, there's been loads of sporadic attacks, troops. We can see all of those areas with crazy pronunciations. I'm not going to try to do that. But the south of Bakhmut, near Klishkivka, the Wagner Group finance Spencer stated that this on February the 1st, that Russian forces still have not taken Bakhmut into an operational encirclement, and denied January 31st claims from a Donetsk People's Republic source that Russian forces took control of Sako Ivanitsy village. So that's 17 kilometers north of Bakhmut. We know that how it's been working in terms of Bakhmut. Again, you're not just going to surround Bakhmut by force. You're going to have to think about it really, really strategically, and that might mean pushing way further north and way further south than you would originally have anticipated. You're not just going to be able to get close to the borders of that city and then just expect to push on through. What you're going to have to do is take the neighbouring settlements leading up to that main city. And if that means trying to take smaller settlements north and south, then that's what it's looking like for Russia's main effort. Now, Ukraine's going to be under a lot of pressure here to defend that front line, because they're not just trying to defend Bakhmut now, they're defending, quite some distance north and south of that, because these little settlements are actually key to the whole situation in Bakhmut. And Russia is having some success, especially southward of Bakhmut, okay? You can see that they've dog-legged round. We mentioned earlier as we did the map study, and that's the way it seems to be. So you don't want to lose too much land north and south of Bakhmut, because it's going to allow Russian forces an easier opportunity to be able to push on into the city, having cut off all of the supply routes and leaving Ukraine effectively one way out, and that's westward, okay? So a lot going on there, guys. Now, geolocated combat footage shows that Russian forces have made slight advances northeast of Bakhmut, near Krasnaya Hora, and on the northeastern and eastern outskirts of the area, as well as South Bakhmut near Optin and Bakhmut's southern outskirts. A Russian military blogger posted video footage of the Wagner group fighting in Bladantne, who claimed that Wagner had pushed Ukraine forces 3 to 4 kilometers away from that area. Russian military bloggers additionally claimed that Wagner has advanced along certain streets in the northern eastern outskirts of Bakhmut itself. Now, that's been happening for the past few months, I would say, guys. They've been pushing in and out of certain areas in east of Bakhmut. Obviously, Russia and Ukraine have a pretty major front line east of that city, guys, okay? And the fighting's been taking place there for a long time. But in terms of Russia, taking their chances and being opportunist in terms of pushing into the city of Bakhmut, I'm not surprised with that, because that's what we've seen for the past few months, guys, okay? You're going to see that sporadic nature of trying to get in and out of Bakhmut, especially on the eastern side, as this war continues. Now, Russian sources continue to claim that Wagner Group forces are pushing northwest of the Klishvkivka area towards Ivansk and Bakhmut's southwestern outskirts in order to cut the T-0504 highway off. So that's the highway. Now, the reason these highways are important, troops, is obvious. Logistics are key. You can't resupply your troops, then your troops can't defend, okay? You can't defend without ammunition. You can't defend without energy sources, i.e. food and water. So, yeah, that's the main thing, this. If you can cut off the supply routes, you cut off everything, guys, all right? So there's a lot going on. Let's get back into this. A Ukrainian serviceman operating in Bakhmut provided granular insight into Russian tactics in the Bakhmut area. The Ukrainian Joint Forces Task Force posted an interview on February 1st with a Ukrainian soldier who stated that the situation in Bakhmut was recently radically changed since Russia has committed competent Wagner and main Directorate of Russian General Staff operatives to the front line. We have seen a lot more traction within that area, although it is light. How can I put this? In terms of their operational capabilities, we understand the limitations of Russia, but they have been opportunist in terms of how they're trying to take little bits of land, little settlements along the way. They have been quite successful in taking that, okay? Ukraine is struggling to defend in certain areas, not all of them, but Bakhmut, to me, is gradually, as the weeks go on, getting encircled. We can see that Russia is actually getting some success within that domain, troops, okay? So that makes a lot of sense in terms of them actually having better soldiers on the front line. It makes a lot of sense. Wagner and the GRU may be committing more elite special operations and reconnaissance elements to augment human wave attacks in Bakhmut. I think you can see that, all right? The serviceman also noted that Russian forces are conducting fairly successful infiltration techniques in Bakhmut by sending unarmed, unequipped camels, military personnel, to deliver ammunition and weapons to frontline positions, and that these camels are often able to approach Ukrainian positions without detection. So that tells me that the guys who are there are, it's not necessarily specialists to be able to get in and out of a situation, but what will happen is if you send one man with quite a bit of kit and equipment onto a route to get into a certain position, that might be able, that you might have a bit better chance of doing that than sending groups of people, vehicles and all of that stuff. So although you might not be getting as much kit and equipment to the front lines as you would like to have done, sending these camels, as they're saying, to the front lines could actually be quite a successful move for them. All right, so this is unconventional warfare now, what we're talking, guys, and it's working. Throughout the ages, we've seen throughout different wars, we've seen that normally unconventional warfighting works, and it worked pretty well. Now, the servicemen stated that Russian forces identify and destroy buildings that Ukrainian forces operate out of. These techniques, which are likely helping reinvigorate the stalled Russian advances in and around Bakhmut, are not likely scalable to support larger offensive operations. It is also unclear how effective they would be in terrain lacking the kind of cover they appear to be using immediately around in Bakhmut. So finally, Russian forces did not conduct any confirmed or claimed ground attacks on the western outskirts of Donetsk city. That's going on a slightly different area of a topic area, guys. That's so Bakhmut. Yeah, what we've been saying before, and let me just get this map up. This area is quite key, guys. All right, in terms of what's going on, but we can see, we zoom out, that Russia seems to be pushing southward, trying to encroach around that city, and they've pushed right north of Bakhmut, potentially doing a massive maneuver around to be able to take that land, guys. Okay, this is what it looks like to me in terms of the grounds that they are taking. Let me get my pen up for reference. So looks as if they're going to be coming around in this direction. Okay, so Bakhmut, although it is massive in terms of its general area, you can see Russia pushing up around, and I think they're going to be trying to take this kind of area and push it northward, you know, and trying to take Bakhmut almost like that. And if you take enough land north and southward of Bakhmut, it becomes an area where it's too strategically dangerous to be there in the first place. And if you look westward of that position, you've got Kramatorsk, which is quite a strategic, popular, heavily dominant area in terms of its size and stature in Ukraine. So are we going to see a lot more of these tactics used by Russia? Well, if they've got the manpower to be able to do that, then yes, I think so. And I don't know what Ukraine's going to do to counter-effect that. Okay, they're going to have to put more specialized individuals on the front line themselves, I believe, to be able to do anything with that. But hopefully we see a little bit more traction for Ukraine troops. So the reason I haven't showed any footage today is because YouTube's policies and stuff have changed, and we can't do that anymore. So if you want to view certain content relating to the war, then please visit the Patreon. Patreon link is in the description below, and that's where I'm going to be putting all of the ad-free, uncensored content, troops, for a very small price. You can pay as little as like $1 a month, I believe, so less than a cup of coffee, guys. If you want to support me there, please consider doing that. I really would appreciate it. And yeah, I've got some good news coming out in the next few months when I can actually speak of a certain situation, good situation that I've gotten myself into. So, yeah, stay tuned for that one, troops. Wherever you are, like, share, subscribe to the channel. It does help me out. And drop a comment from the algorithm, guys. But until next time, peace.